Getting on the bus to cue Terry the bus driver for the first shot of the opening sequence.
10 seconds. 5 seconds. Go Terry.
Once I get off the bus in the opening sequence, I go around past streetcars to move through the Webster's back garden to put one of the supporting artists in position for scene 2.
Orient Express theme, Anna's hostess.
There's about 30 seconds between scene 2 and scene 3, which is on the main street. Scene 2 takes place by the bus stop and scene 3 is on the main street. So I have to get through the back gardens and down to the cabin to cue 2 vehicles to move into position for scene 3. There is a bit of a wait, yeah, for scene 2 to complete and before we move to scene 3, but it gives us time to check everybody's in position for the next group of scenes. And I'm waiting for a line of Coulson Smiths before cueing the vehicles.
Caitlin's coming round.
All right.
And then I have to wait for scene 3 to finish because it's looking down the street before I can move to set up the next section.
First cute flush of first love, eh? It's all downhill from here, mate.
Yeah, that scene's complete. Check the vehicles are moving in position for the next group of scenes, and then head off down the street to set up the supporting artists and vehicles for scene 9 and scene 11. Whilst we're in studio doing other scenes, I think 2.5 to 3 minutes to get everything, the vehicles in position, get the supporting artists out, and get the cameras in position. So we move Luke's car into position for scene 11. We split the background artists up into 3 different groups and kept a section of them in the Rovers, section in the medical centre, and another group above Dev's corner shop, so in 3 different holding areas, as there was in total 86 on the night. I think at that point we realised that the streetcar wouldn't fit past the cameras on Luke's car, so we decided to bin it off. Cue Joe and Leanne to go down the street during scene 9 once Michelle says her first line.
Hey, Sarah! Hello?
And then I have to move under the jib to stand by to cue Louise during scene 11 at the very top. All the camera equipment and people at this end of the street had to be in a certain position because they were in the back of shot and during scene 9. Andy rolls the carpet out. Scene 11 begins and Louise goes across the front of camera and down the street.
Hey, where are we going with this?
We're going to Kevin's.
Monitoring the salon to have a quick look at what's going on actually on screen. There was only the monitors in the salon and in the medical centre, so you didn't get very much opportunity to check how your work looked. Scene 11's just finished. We put the supporting artist back to the holding area, move the carpet out of the way for Luke's car to disappear. Alice collects the artists from that scene and takes them to their next location, move the vehicles, and then go and set up for the end of part 1, which is the exterior plats shot down by the cabin. The end of part was after scene 14, which is where Callum attacks Sarah, so there's quite a bit of a wait whilst we're in studio. During the end of part, Callum's car had to be on a specific mark in the pre-rigged cameras shot, so that took a little while to get that in position. So at this point, the action vehicles and transport people make sure that the car lands precisely on its mark. And we begin part 2. And it's after scene 24. The Platts make their way from the studio out onto the lot to do their scene outside. Jack P. Shepherd stands by in Callum's car, and I have to cue him out at the very top of the scene to begin scene 24. And the scene begins, Jack gets his cue and moves into the Platts back garden.
Don't
And then once the door's shut and we're not looking in that direction, I make my way through Underworld. Close the door behind me so it's not seen during scene 25, as that would be terrible. Move through Underworld, pull my jeans up, and then out the back of Underworld and down the back street, which runs alongside the Platts back garden where the scene is currently taking place. So you have to be quite quiet to make sure you're not heard.
I'm gonna be sick. Ugh, I can't touch him again.
Fine. Kylie, help me get him shifted.
Heading out the brewery gates and to the top of the street to make sure that the area is secure when Callum's car takes off at high speed, driven by Tony. So we need to make sure that the area is safe and there's no one in the way. Make sure that the supporting artists are stood by ready for the end of part 2. Wait for the car to start. And as the car takes off, it's followed by a streetcar, taxi. So have to keep the area secure on this side of the street to make sure nobody has any accidents. Once the car's clear, that's the end of scene 25 and the end of part 2. So we have about a 4-minute gap during the break to set up for scene 27 and part 3. So collect some more supporting artists for scene 27, which is the second scene of part 3. Put them in position and wait for scene 26 to complete. Move the supporting artists to make sure there's no shadows or they're not seen in the back of any shots waiting for their cues. Once Nick and Carla get their cue, I cue Tomeo to make his move, and the other supporting artists take their cues. Then move back and give a cue to the vehicle parked next to the kebab shop.
You can leave it like that.
It's my name, Carla Connor. I'm phoning Roy as soon as we're outside.
That's scene 27 complete, so then put the supporting artists and the vehicles in their holding areas and go and collect the next lot of background for scene 31 from the holding area. And that's the supporting artist finished from the Rovers area, as that needs to be clear for the artist to arrive to pour out onto the street at the very end. We move the bus back into position, which has been rebadged and re-number plated to look like a different bus. Check that the next group of bus passengers are also in position and know what they're going to be doing during scene 31. And then we wait for scene 30 to complete on location, which was the remote scene where Callum's car was exploded.
Turn the key and...
Standing by to cue the extras at the top of scene 31.
Wait!
And the bus will begin to move off during this scene and make its way down to Roy's Rolls. Once it stops outside Roy's Rolls, we then have another bus standing by with no windows so that we can shoot through the windows. We have 2 buses on the night. Move off to check to put the supporting artist back to the holding area and check that the bus passengers get off the first bus and are stood by for their next position. Make sure that the road's clear for the second bus, the rigged bus, to move onto the street into its position. Now it moves off from the brewery gates into the stopped position from the first bus. And then run up to the medical centre, collect the 2 supporting artists that are going to be in the end of part 3 shot outside the Rovers, whilst the cameras and sound team set up for a scene outside the Chippy. At this point I go and collect the supporting artists for scene 46, 44, 37 and 38. There's a bit of a wait as we're doing this during the break for part 3 to 4, so we'll put these guys into position, check that everything's ready for scene 37, which runs into scene 38 on the street, and then wait. After this, when we get to scene 40, there's a 13 scene run on the street back to back, so it's a particularly difficult period of the shoot. Once part 4 begins, wait for the cue for the beginning of scene 37. Cue the supporting artist out of the chippy and then stand by to cue 2 more supporting artists that will walk down during scene 38, which runs immediately after.
Oh, mate. Mate?
Cue the supporting artist for 38 and then stand by out of shot before we move to scene 41, which is outside the kebab shop.
You're so excited.
This sound team and camera team will move as well. So that's 38 complete on this street. We've got 39 and 40 to get ourselves to the kebab shop and set up scene 41. And quickly check that the next group of supporting artists are ready and they know that I'll be coming for them next. Check that the guys are in position for 41. At this point, scene 40 is in the bus, which is just to my left, as you can see over there.
I'm sorry, I should have spoken as soon as the train was announced.
Wait for the cue and cut and cue the background artist away.
I just don't get it. Why would you say she's coming and then not come?
You've got more chance of understanding the Big Bang than women.
That's 41 complete. Make my way to the bus stop to collect the background for 44. Scene 42 is still running on the street. Bruno and Tez make their way into the Rovers, which finishes 42. 43 takes place in the Rovers' backyard, and then 44 is outside the Rovers. To check that everyone's in position. The scene begins, and when the jib camera passes the Rovers' windows, I cue the supporting artist past the Rovers' wall to make her way through the scene. We then go to a scene on the bus for 45. 46 is just in the area where we stood now, so set up the background for 46, put the supporting artists in the holding area, wait for 45 to complete, make sure that the supporting artists are on their marks, and cue the supporting artist for 46.
Can I borrow you downstairs?
Oh, chicken.
That scene finishes, collect the next group of background, put them in position for scene 48, and bring round the background artists that were in the Rovers returning studio to place them outside the Rovers when we get to scene 50. So Cadillac moves in position, that scene 48 begins, cue the background for 48, move the Rovers supporting artists closer. So scene 48 is running, I stand by with the guys. 48 finishes, and they have 15 seconds to get outside the Rovers. Move the last group of supporting artists in position outside the bookies for scene 50. Scene 50 begins, and they make their way across the street, and that's my last cue of the night. All 86 supporting artists have been at this point on the street and made their way at some point across the street, and that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.